Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm in beautiful Fredericksburg. Actually, this is a butterfly sanctuary right behind me. And here checking on my Airbnb. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of wrap-up video that while I'm here on the Mark Levinson video that I gave you the raw footage of, but wanted to give you my synopsis. Everybody's been asking, what do you think? And even though that video gave you some level of information and my anecdotal raw feedback, his wife was videotaping me and you could see my reaction. I wanted to summarize my thoughts in a more coherent and consolidated manner and detailed manner. Getting right off the bat out the way, the audiophile jargon. Everybody likes to know the audiophile jargon synopsis of what I heard. And really, it was phenomenal because of a combination of factors. The gear, the electronics, remember the M1 system is everything combined. But also, what I noticed was just a level of dynamics on certain songs that I knew well that I really have never heard before. Again, combination of his room being really well done, not so much over-treated or anything like that, but set up perfectly in his room such that bass was not an issue like it was for almost every room in Munich, which I had just come from. And so even though gear-wise I saw just as high quality gear in many respects in Munich, I didn't hear anything better than I heard at Mark Levinson's house. And so that's a testament both to his room and his gear. But in particular, the words I would use to describe what I heard in Mark Levinson's room were, number one, the dynamics were off the chart. Those pro audio drivers were just efficient and distortionless and limitless excursion, such that I got a visceral punch in the gut when he was playing Poet of Chinese Drums, was a thing I know very well. It was very impressive. Probably one of the most impressive I've ever heard of that. And very few systems can do that the way I heard it. So you're already in the elite tier with that one song alone. But what also stood out to me was at lower volumes and other material, it was actually quite impressive, almost like electrostatics in terms of being able to enjoy the pristine transparency, detail, coherency that I don't think you get with a lot of speakers that have a lot of drivers or even pro audio drivers. Sometimes it's very hard to mate them all. And again, it's got its own flavor, the Mark Levinson stuff, but that's going to be the nature of any gear in any price point. And so let me pivot to that because I didn't do measurements. Obviously, I was only there for a couple hours, so this is limited in my feedback. And let me talk about measurements real quick, even though I didn't do any. Measurements have some value for sure, and I give props to those that do both jargon and measurements. But one of the problems with measurements is almost like putting a car on a dyno, whatever they do to measure the horsepower and utmost potential speed. It really doesn't tell you how it's going to behave on the track, and rarely the best dyno results never translate exactly to the track. Same thing with speakers. And one of the things that most reviews leave out of speaker and electronics in the whole audiophile industry, yeah, they can give you jargon like I just did. They can give you measurements, which are good. And the people that do both, I give major props to. But the one thing that they leave out that I wanted to share with you guys is that when you're talking about gear at this level, it's extremely important to know who it was designed for. It's just like a Ferrari versus Rolls-Royce versus, you know, whatever it is, Lamborghini, Aston Martin. These all have an ethos behind who they're designing for. And in this case, we're talking about a specific type clientele is what Mark Levinson's gear for. You kind of heard it as he was talking, and I was talking about marketing wise what he has to get over doing all-in-one box solution, because a lot of people are just conditioned to they wanting the whole thing. They want like very impressive amps, they want very impressive cabling. You know, when you spend that money, you want something that you can take pictures on Instagram and brag about. You know, everybody has that as part of their buying decision, and I totally understand it. I'm not hating on that. He's looking though for ones that are looking for all-in-one, more everything in one box contained, and he's doing all the synergy for you. But on top of that synergy, one of the things that's a takeaway, both from the M1 system as well as Daniel Hertz in general, here's where I'm going to pivot to talking about Daniel Hertz in general. One of the best things I think about the whole Daniel Hertz line is that Mighty Cat chip. People are going to talk about the C-Wave, they're going to talk about the health benefits, controversial one way or not. Active crossovers and active speakers, that's been done before. Pro audio drivers, PBN is another one that can do that extremely well. So there've been those that have done all of those things, but the Mighty Cat chip, I think, is the real takeaway from the Daniel Hertz line, both in the M1 and his all his electronic. Let's face it, not many people can afford the M1 anyway. The real takeaway, I think, about Daniel Hertz is the Mighty Cat chip. And that gives you the versatility, or him the versatility, to combine amp, DAC, and preamp basically in one chip, one board, and eliminate so many negatives associated with combining systems and mismatches. You can have the best preamp, but if you made it with the wrong amp, you're going to have problems. The wrong gain structure, we've seen this a lot of times in the hobby, input impedance mismatches. He's taking care of all of that for you. And this is the type of system that will resonate with performance-oriented audiophiles looking for high efficiency designs and want utmost dynamics, but also the ability to put it in almost any room. Now, I will say this part. If I had to ding anything with the M1 in general, it doesn't apply to his other ones, but it's big. It's a big box, and it's not as sexy. So in terms of that element of one box and then a big box speaker, it might not have the sexiness that other, like an Ulcivox, MBL Extremes, Estalon Extremes. These are kind of designs that I think would be more conducive to a different ethos, a Lamborghini buyer or a Ferrari buyer versus a Rolls-Royce buyer. So you have to understand the ethos behind it and the flavor of what that designer believes in. He's a musician. He has a different mindset of what he's looking for. And it brings up a macro point I wanted to talk about as well, in terms of each one of us is conditioned to like music a certain way. He can't even listen to PCM. I can listen to PCM for hours. My system, I can listen to it all night. He said he wouldn't even be in the hobby anymore, or even in the industry, if it weren't for C-Wave fixing PCM. I don't have that problem, but I don't, put my opinions on everybody else. And maybe for you, that might be a problem, and you want something like his C-Wave. Maybe you don't. I think there's other things to look at, like the Mighty Cat chip, where you can control the gain structure. And let me get this out of the way. He does have DSP in there. He does have the ability to control certain things, but it's not there to fix bad speakers or bad rooms. And it's not something you're going to have access to like a Bach or a mini DSP or any other kind of EQ. This is something that they're going to control behind the scenes and optimize it for whatever speaker you buy, or hopefully their speaker is what they are designing it for. So those are tools for behind the scenes. I wanted to get that out the way with the Mighty Cat. But getting back to my ethos and taste equation, that's another part of it. He can modify it, but he is a musician and he's looking at his experiences and what he listens for. People that grow up on vinyl, they're going to have a different condition. They probably don't even care about ticks and pops on a record because they're conditioned to already hear it. Tape hiss and all that. If people are conditioned, if they grew up on that, that's not a problem. For me, when I hear a tick and pop, I call that a remaster, guys. I mean, that's a problem for me when I hear a tick and pop. But for others, I understand it's not a problem. It's not a big a deal. And that's part of the ethos that I think are missing from many reviews. They'll do subjective jargon. Some will just do that alone. They'll do measurements and do the combine. That's better. But much more important is actually doing measurements at the listening position, because a dyno machine is not going to tell you how it's really going to perform on the track. But the more important equation is the designer somebody whose ethos you feel matches yours? And that's where it is. You got to find out, for this M1 system, are you the Lamborghini Ferrari, Aston Martin, Rolls Royce. I don't know if there's an exact correlation or analogy for you guys in this instance for cars, but you have to understand his ethos. He's doing everything for you in one box, consolidated, synergies taken care of, and you're going to get the highest level of performance possible. And it's arguably because of that Mighty Cat chip and the customization, whether you're doing it with the M1 or with other speakers, with his amplifier, pairing it with other speakers, you have some customization and abilities with active crossovers, which you heard with Andrew Jones' superior approach. You have the ability to get higher ceiling of performance, and such that if performance is your key metric and customization, albeit you're not going to have user access to a lot of these things, I think that's the takeaway. That's the uniqueness of Daniel Hertz. That's what he spent a ton of money, almost going bankrupt, designing, is this Mighty Cat chip. And likely what, if he's going to succeed with Daniel Hertz, it's going to be licensing that, and this being the new paradigm in the industry where preamp, amp, DAC are combined, optimized in one chassis. You've seen this with the Bach. This should play really well with the Bach, because the Bach gives you the controls to address room issues, speaker issues, at your listening position, in your ear. This should play really well with it, but it helps push forward that paradigm that Edgar is doing with the audio. Is when you optimize the DAC with the preamp inside one box, everything is controlled. It can beat, like the Bach has done, DCS, total DACs, esoterics, because the best cable is no cable. The best value is not extra chassis you're paying for. The best grounding scheme is have it all optimized in one box, not power cords from all these different boxes. People are starting to realize the performance level benefits, the signal to noise ratio benefits, the overall performance level increases when you have competent people putting it in one box. And the Mighty Cat chip is very instrumental in this hobby. And the one takeaway, more than the C-Wave, more than the health benefits, more than the M1 even, which is as great as it is, I think the Mighty Cat chip is the key takeaway of what's innovative about Daniel Hertz. And if you're sold on that, and that flavor, and that customization, and that potential, I think that's going to be the brand for you. I hope you get a chance to audition it. I'll try to get you some music clips. He is trusting me with his Maria amp. He says, I will get access to behind the scenes programming of the Mighty Cat chip, because he thinks I can appreciate that, use it in my system, and show you how his Maria amp will work in a non-Mark Levinson environment. So this isn't putting a total bow on my coverage. This is just giving you another step in the process. Him and I are friends now, despite, how this even started with my, intense skepticism with his health claims. But again, I found what I think is the value, and that's what I wanted to share with you. Obviously, other things may have resonated with you from the other video, and that's why I gave you all that raw footage. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you think, and I hope to see you back here soon with more from the Maria and tons more. I did see, while I'm on this trip, I went and heard $1 million system. Lots more to come on that. See you back here soon.